The United States Constitution's Second Amendment states, quote, "A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to bear arms shall not be infringed." Close quote. In other words, the people of this country are allowed to own their own weapons. The right to bear arms may be a federal law for every citizen of this country. However, this amendment set forth by our forefathers does not say that we cannot regulate this right. For example, everyone has the right to free speech, but if you were to say, "I'm going to kill the president," even as a joke, you may find yourself in a very hot seat. This Second Amendment is a law that needs to be more heavily regulated. The states were given the right to regulate their own laws for firearms based off of this federal statute. Unfortunately, Utah has one of the most lax set of laws when it comes to firearms. When it comes to purchasing a firearm, the state of Utah only regulates the sales of guns from a weapons dealer. A private seller can sell their weapon to anybody at any time for any reason, and the new buyer is not required to register the weapon in their name. For me, as a law enforcement official, this is very worrisome. If I were to pull somebody over and I run their information before leaving my vehicle, I already know if they own a weapon or a concealed weapons permit if they have registered that weapon. However, I could be walking up to a vehicle loaded with guns that were purchased from some Joe Blow down the street. If I were to get shot and the gun is located later on in the serial number run, it could come back to the original owner of the weapon from 15 years ago, and this is not going to help find my shooter. There are enthusiasts, however, that believe that this is the way that it should be. The gun laws should be more lax because of this right to bear arms. Many of these enthusiasts believe that with more guns on the street, there would be less crime, because every criminal would be afraid of getting shot. I disagree entirely, and John Locke puts it well in his book, More Guns, Less Crime, Understanding Crime and Gun Control Laws. It says, quote, "Obviously, arming citizens has not stopped terrorism in Israel. However, terrorists have responded to the relatively greater cost of shooting in public places by resorting to more bombings. Is Israel better off with bombings instead of mass public shootings?" Close quote. I ask you, is anybody better off with this type of escalation? A perfect example happened in 1997 in North Hollywood, California. After a bank robbery, police ended up in a shootout with heavily armed bank robbers wielding AK-47s. These robbers were shredding the police vehicles, and the police weapons were completely ineffective against the armor that was being worn by the suspects. Police ended up having to commandeer weapons and ammunition from a local gun store in order to have any effect. The amount of damage done physically and psychologically to all those involved was unparalleled and didn't do anybody any good. It is a simple truth. Throughout history, the question has always been, who has the bigger stick? You build guns, we build more accurate guns. So you build bigger guns. Well, we'll build artillery. So you build bombs, and we build nuclear weapons. Giving more people more weapons will simply lead to people needing bigger weapons. We need to find more ways to regulate who and how weapons are obtained beforehand in order to prevent these crimes. Additionally, people feel it unconstitutional that convicted felons are not allowed to own any firearms or be in the vicinity of any firearms. Well, to them I say this. The right to bear arms is a privilege. When you do things wrong, you lose your privileges. Just like a driver's license. You may have the privilege to obtain one, but if you show that you are an unsafe driver time and time again, the state can relinquish that privilege, sometimes permanently. It is imperative that this state begin harsher regulations to purchasing and owning firearms. Private sellers should be required to obtain buyer information and have it run for background information just as weapons dealers do. Buyers should be required to register any weapon, regardless of how it was obtained, as part of the purchasing process, thus relinquishing the previous owner from any responsibility of that weapon. Finally, Anyone purchasing a weapon should be required to show evidence that they have either attended a firearm safety course or obtained a concealed weapons permit.